The rooftop launch party for Novoteka's latest app was giving everything. String lights everywhere, the city skyline burning gold behind the crowd, and the kind of people who only showed up when there were cameras. It smelled like overpriced cologne and ambition. Zara Ahmed moved through the crowd with a tray of drinks, basically invisible. She was wearing a plain black server's polo tucked into high-waisted black slacks, her natural curls pinned back tight under a small clip, one tiny gold stud earring catching the light. She had worked 3 events this week already. Her feet hurt. She did not care. She needed the money, and she was not about to let anyone see that. Elijah Cross was the reason everyone was here. He had just closed a $40 million deal at 29, and the whole city wanted a piece of him. He stood near the edge of the rooftop railing in a fitted slate-gray blazer over a black turtleneck, no tie, silver watch catching the light every time he moved his wrist. His jaw was sharp. His energy was sharper. He was on the phone, talking loud enough that half the party could hear him. "I don't negotiate with people who waste my time," he said into the phone. "That's not ego, that's efficiency." Zara passed behind him. Someone stepped backward into her without looking. The tray tilted. 2 glasses of sparkling water and a glass of red wine went sideways, and the wine landed square across the back of Elijah's blazer. The whole rooftop went quiet. Zara steadied the tray, her face completely calm even though her chest was pounding. She grabbed a napkin. "I am so sorry. Let me get that." Elijah turned slowly. His eyes were cold. He looked at her the way people look at something that inconvenienced them, not someone. "Are you serious right now?" It was not even a question. "Do you know what that blazer cost?" "I can cover the dry cleaning bill," she said, voice steady. He let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "You cannot cover the dry cleaning bill. That is the whole point." He stepped back from her. Whoever staffed tonight clearly has 0 standards. People around them shifted. A few pulled out phones. Nobody said a word in her defense. Something went still inside Zara. Not broken. Still. She lowered the napkin slowly. "You're right," she said. Her voice was quiet but it carried. "I made a mistake. A genuine one. But the way you just spoke to me? That wasn't about the blazer." She looked him dead in the eyes. "That was about thinking you're better than me. And no amount of money makes that true." She set the tray on the nearest table and unclipped her name tag. "I quit." She walked toward the elevator. Head up. Steps even. The crowd parted for her. Behind her, Elijah stood in his wine-stained blazer, phone still in his hand, completely frozen. He had fired people. He had been in boardrooms where grown men cried. He had never, not once, been spoken to like that. And somehow, he could not shake the feeling that she was the only real person at this entire party. Elijah did not go home after the party. He drove. No destination, no playlist, just the city at 1 a.m. doing its thing around him. Neon signs blurring in rain-wet streets. The wine smell still clinging to his blazer. Wealth for worth. That was what she had said. He had not even fully processed it yet, but it was stuck somewhere behind his ribs like a splinter. He ended up outside a 24-hour spot called Lena's Plate, a small diner sandwiched between a laundromat and a closed pharmacy. He went in for coffee because he could not sleep and the silence in his penthouse had started to feel like a living thing. And there she was. Zara was in a corner booth, still in her server's polo, her curls fully loose now, spilling around her face. She had taken off the clip. She looked completely different. Softer. More herself. Across from her sat an older woman in a thick coat, eating soup slowly, and Zara was laughing at something she said, the kind of laugh you cannot fake. There were 2 other people at nearby tables, clearly unhoused, eating full meals. When the waitress came over looking stressed, Zara spoke to her quietly and slid cash across the counter from her own wallet. Elijah stood in the doorway and watched all of it. He had never been invisible before. It was strange. It felt almost like honesty. Then Zara looked up. The laugh vanished. Her jaw locked. She turned back to the older woman without saying a word to him. He walked over anyway. He did not know why. "Can I sit?" "It's a free country," she said, not looking up. The older woman glanced between them. She started to gather her things. "Nora, stay." Zara touched her hand. "You haven't finished." Elijah stood there in his $40 million life feeling like an idiot. "I owe you an apology," he said. "You found me to say sorry." Zara finally looked at him. "Okay," said. "Goodbye. I was wrong. Not just about tonight. I've been wrong about a lot of things for a long time." Something in his voice made her pause. It did not sound rehearsed. It sounded tired. "Sit down," she said finally. "But if you say one condescending thing, I will pour this entire pot of coffee directly on your turtleneck." He sat. Nora looked at him with eyes that had seen decades of hardship and still managed to be kind. "You the one from the news? The tech guy?" "Yeah." She nodded slowly. "My son wanted to work at a company like yours. They never called him back." She went back to her soup. "Money is funny like that. Makes people think they already know the answer before they even ask the question." Elijah had nothing to say to that. Zara poured him coffee from the pot on the table, slow and deliberate. "What do you actually want, Elijah Cross?" He looked at her. The honest answer surprised him when it came out. "I genuinely don't know." She studied his face for a long moment, reading something in it that she had not expected. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. The color drained from her face. She stood up fast. "I have to go." "What's wrong?" She was already reaching for her jacket. "Nothing. It's nothing." But her hands were shaking. And Elijah, who read people for a living, knew that whatever just happened, it was not nothing. 3 days passed. Elijah found her through the catering company. He told himself it was because he wanted to apologize properly. He told himself a lot of things that week. He showed up at the community center where Zara volunteered every Saturday morning, a converted warehouse in the east side with peeling murals and folding tables. He was wearing a plain white crewneck and dark jeans, no watch, no blazer. He had thought about that choice more than he was willing to admit. Zara was at the front, organizing food donations, a faded olive green cargo jacket over a white tank top, baggy jeans, and beat-up white sneakers. Her curls were half pulled back. She looked completely at home in a way she had not at the party. She saw him. She did not run him off. That was something. Over the next 2 weeks, he kept showing up. He helped carry boxes. He made bad jokes. She roasted him every time he said something out of touch, which was often. He took it. He got better. They started talking. Really talking. Late nights in that same diner. Coffee going cold on the table while they argued about the city, about who it was built for, about what people owed each other. "You think you can just decide to be a good person," she said one night, stirring her cup. "Can't you?" "No." She looked at him. "You have to keep choosing it. Every single day. Even when it costs you." He looked at her for a long moment. "What did it cost you?" "The night you walked out." She was quiet. "Then, my rent money for next month. I counted on that shift." He started to speak. "If you offer to pay it, I will leave right now and block your number." He closed his mouth. She almost smiled. Things shifted after that. The kind of shift that neither of them named out loud but both of them felt. He started seeing the city differently, through her eyes. She started seeing him differently, past the headlines. Then the article dropped. Tech heir Elijah Cross goes undercover in low-income communities as PR stunt following viral rooftop incident. There were photos. Him at the community center. Him at the diner. Someone had been watching. Someone had tipped off the press. Zara called him. Her voice was flat and final. Tell me it wasn't you. Zara, I swear to you. Because your publicist just quoted you. She said, and I'm reading this right now, that Elijah wanted to connect with everyday people after the incident. Everyday people. Her voice broke on the last word. I vouched for you. I told Nora you were different. I told people at the center you were there because you actually cared. I didn't plant that story. Someone on my team. You're their boss, Elijah. Silence. I know, he said. The line went dead. The community center was being shut down. Zara found out on a Tuesday. The city had sold the building to a development company to clear space for luxury condos. The center had 30 days. The families who depended on it had nowhere else to go. Nora's weekly meal was there. 12 kids did homework there every afternoon because their apartments were too loud and too small. Zara put everything she had into fighting it. She filed appeals. She organized a petition. She showed up to a city council meeting in a thrifted blazer over a striped turtleneck, her curls out, her notes printed on both sides of the paper to save money, and she spoke for 4 minutes in front of people who had already made up their minds. The vote didn't change. She sat outside on the center's front steps afterward, in the cold, not crying. Just done. A car pulled up. Elijah got out. He was in a charcoal coat and dark trousers, no stylist energy, just a guy who looked like he hadn't been sleeping. He sat down next to her on the steps without asking. She did not tell him to leave. I fired her, he said. My publicist. I know that doesn't fix anything. It doesn't. I know. They sat in silence for a while. The streetlights buzzed. I bought the building, he said. She turned to look at him. I closed it this morning. It's not mine. I'm signing it over to a community land trust. Permanently protected. They can't sell it or develop it. He looked at her. I had to call in every favor I had and I burned a deal I've been building for 2 years. But it's done. Zara stared at him. Why, she said. And it wasn't really about the building. He looked back at her, and for the first time, the version of himself he'd been performing for years was completely gone. Just a person. Sitting on concrete steps in the cold. Because you showed me that some things are worth more than what you gain from them. His voice was low. And because I didn't want to be the kind of man you were right about. Zara looked away. Her throat was tight. This doesn't make us even, she said. I know that too. She was quiet for a long time. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her whole body went rigid. It was a number she hadn't seen in 4 years. Her father. The man who had taken her college fund and disappeared. She looked at Elijah. Whatever you're about to say, he said quietly, reading her face, I'm not going anywhere. She answered the phone. And everything she had built her walls around came rushing back in. Her father wanted money. Of course he did. He was sick, he said. He needed help, he said. He was sorry, he said. The words came out smooth and practiced, like he had rehearsed them in the car before calling. Zara sat on those steps and listened to every word with her jaw tight and her eyes dry. Elijah watched her face the whole time. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He was just there, a quiet, solid thing in the cold. When she hung up, she put the phone face down on her knee. "He wants me to wire him $3,000 by Friday," she said. "What are you going to do?" She exhaled slowly. "Nothing." She looked down at her hands. "I spent 4 years being angry at him. 4 years working doubles to replace what he took. 4 years thinking that if he ever came back, I would have something to say." She paused. "Turns out I don't." "That's not nothing," Elijah said. "That's you choosing yourself." She looked at him sideways. "When did you get emotionally intelligent?" "I've been taking notes." She almost laughed. It almost broke her. "I'm not okay," she said quietly, and it was the most honest thing she had said in years. "I know," he said. "You don't have to be." They sat there in the cold for a long time. The city moved around them. Buses and sirens and someone's music from a window above. Life doing its normal, relentless thing. Eventually Zara stood up. She pulled her jacket tighter. "I'm going back inside to finish the inventory. They need to know what's staying with the new management. I'll help." She looked at him standing there, this man who had humiliated her on a rooftop, who had broken her trust, who had then gone and done the one thing nobody does anymore. He had paid a real cost for someone else's life being better. She was not ready to call it love. She was not sure she believed in love the way people described it, fast and certain and clean. But this, whatever this was, felt true. And true was something she could trust. "You're carrying boxes," she said. "Not organizing. You still fold wrong." "I know how to fold." "You folded a fitted sheet into a triangle, Elijah." "That was one time." She walked inside. He followed. The building was warm. Kids were still at the tables finishing their homework, unbothered by any of it, just doing what they needed to do. Nora was in the kitchen stirring something that smelled like her whole childhood. The lights were on. The walls were still a little peeling. It was imperfect and real and still standing. Zara stopped in the doorway and looked at all of it. Elijah stopped beside her. "Thank you," she said. Not to him, exactly. Just out loud. To whoever was listening. He didn't say anything. He just handed her a box from the stack by the door. She took it. And for the first time in a long time, she did not feel like she was carrying everything alone. The end.